The first time we come into this world, we come as tiny, defenseless little beings. At such a vulnerable stage, many of us can give thanks to our mothers for protecting us. One certainly wouldn't expect that the person who is supposed to provide us with love and care would become the antagonist in our lives. Such was the unfortunate case with Paris Talley, who was only 28 days old when her mother ended her life in such a bizarre and horrific way. It sends shivers down one's spine to imagine just how cold-blooded a mother has to be to do what she did to her child. The villain in this case is China Arnold, who sent a shockwave through America in 2006. Welcome to Twisted Minds. My name is James, and today I will walk you through the gut-wrenching story of an infant used as a prop for her mother's vengeance. The now infamous China Arnold was born in Dayton, Ohio on the 29th of March, 1980. Not much is known about her childhood, but before giving birth to little Paris, China Arnold had already clashed with the law on two previous occasions. First in 2000, when she was convicted of kidnapping. 2 short years later, she was once again arrested and convicted, but this time for forgery. With that, the foundation for her future incarceration was set, though she did not know it at the time. Fast forward to 4 years later. In that time, she had tried to get her act together and settle down. China Arnold became a new mother in early August of 2005 after giving birth to a beautiful little girl who she named Paris. For 4 weeks, she and her live-in boyfriend, Paris Talley, took care of her daughter in their home, situated in a beat-down housing complex in Dayton, Ohio. 28 days later, on the 29th of August 2005, the couple were exhausted from taking care of 3 sons and a newborn child. Paris Talley convinced his sister to babysit the 4 kids, while he and his girlfriend went to the local park to spend quality time over a bottle of Bacardi 151. Things were going quite well, and the two of them talked about everything and nothing. The couple continued to take glass after glass from the bottle until the alcohol kicked in and they both became very intoxicated. Eventually, long-standing tensions in the relationship came to the surface, and they got into an argument over the paternity of the baby. Paris had been hearing a lot of rumors, and according to those rumors, China was having an affair with an unknown man while she was attending Sinclair Community College to become a counselor. China naturally denied this accusation from Paris, and the argument got even more heated from there. During the quarrel, Paris went as far as to deny being the father of little Paris Talley, although DNA tests after Paris's death confirmed that he was indeed the father. One possible explanation for this behavior was possibly guilt. Paris apparently confessed to China that he had been sleeping with their next-door neighbor. This admission of infidelity was too much for China to handle. After 2 hours of back-and-forth argument, the date ended sourly. They decided to return home, where the argument fired up again. Later on, in his testimony, Paris testified that he had slapped China in the parking lot and pushed her to the ground. He claimed that he had only done this as retaliation because she bit him on the lip. Being too angry to stay in the house, he went to an apartment called The Spot, which he sold drugs from. After calming down from the exchange, he decided to go back home after a night of selling. Upon getting home, everything seemed calm. He found China passed out on a couch, presumably from the alcohol. He claimed that he also saw his infant daughter asleep in a car seat, right next to the couch China was sleeping on. Seeing that all was well, at least according to his view, he decided to go to sleep. When he woke up the next morning, he was shocked to see that his daughter Paris was as cold as ice and stiff. There were multiple mysterious burn marks on her body, which set him into a fit of panic. Immediately, he woke China up and they rushed Paris to the Children's Medical Center. On getting there, the doctors did all they could to try and save the infant, but it was no use. Paris Talley was already dead. China Arnold was arrested initially, but the police had to release her due to a lack of evidence. This was not the end of it though. Only weeks later, the gruesome truth behind the mysterious incident would be uncovered. In his statement given later on, Paris revealed that China Arnold had admitted to murdering Paris during a conversation they had on the phone. She was reported to have told him that the baby might have still been alive if he had remained faithful to her. After doing this, she walked out of the house so she would not have to hear the continuous screams of the infant. According to medical experts who analyzed the incident, Paris must have died almost immediately after the temperature in the microwave rose as high as 108 degrees Fahrenheit. They concluded that Arnold must have left the baby in the microwave for more than 2 minutes. Can you imagine how cold-blooded one has to be to leave their own child burning in a microwave for over 2 minutes? Paris was said to have died because her internal temperatures rose too high to sustain life. As the shocked medical examiner, Dr. Marcella Fierro, would later say, she was cooked alive. China Arnold was arrested again and charged with aggravated murder in light of this revelation. She was locked up in the Montgomery County Jail while she waited trial. During this time, she met and developed a romantic relationship with Linda Williams, who was her cellmate. In the time they spent together, Linda Williams managed to gain China's trust. Eventually, Arnold confided in her about what had occurred the day her daughter died. For the second time, China Arnold admitted that she had intentionally placed Paris in the microwave because her boyfriend had questioned the paternity of the baby. Linda Williams did the right thing and testified in court to what Arnold had told her. This crucial bit of evidence was necessary in moving the case forward. Soon after Arnold's first trial began, Talley told the Dayton Daily News that his son told him that he took the baby's lifeless body from the microwave after a neighbor's youngster had put it in there. The accusation later resulted in a mistrial. The prosecution demonstrated during the second trial that Terrell Talley's son was not even in the vicinity on August 29, 2005, and thus could not have observed the baby's murder. To put it another way, everything the little child said in trial number 1 was completely false. The first hearing was declared a mistrial when new witnesses came forward. During this trial, Arnold's cellmate said in court that China admitted to putting her kid in the microwave and turning it on because she was frightened that her boyfriend would leave her if he realized that the baby was not his. So, if the cellmate was telling the truth, China Arnold must have reasoned that Terrell Talley would forgive her for killing their child, but not for cheating on him. Unbelievable. A pathologist was asked to analyze the burns on young Paris. The pathologist declared that the burns do in fact match another Virginia infant boy who was also killed in a microwave oven. In this trial, China, who was 28 at the time, faced the charge of aggravated murder of her daughter Paris Talley in 2005. If things went differently, she could have been potentially given the death penalty. During Arnold's trial in Dayton, Dr. Marcella Fierro testified that the burn patterns were little different from those discovered in the Virginia case, and that the girl must have died after being burned in a microwave oven for more than 2 minutes. I'd say several minutes, given the degree of burning, Fierro said. Fierro stated that she evaluated the baby boy in 1999 while working at the Virginia Chief Medical Examiner's office and discovered that he had burns on his lower limbs as a result of the microwave's heating element being on the side closest to his legs. Talley's burns, she claimed, were on the front of her chest, limbs, and face because the microwave's heating element was on top. According to Fierro, Paris died as a result of overheating rather than burns. On the same day, an emergency department physician named Dr. William Matre at the Children's Medical Center testified that he was amazed China Arnold didn't realize the baby had been burned. When asked how Talley received the burns, Arnold exclaimed, "My baby's burned?" according to Dr. William Matre. This came as a shock to him because he felt the injuries were quite obvious. He was shocked that she could ask a question like that and was unable to hide his disgust for the negligent mother. When detectives examined Arnold's apartment the day Talley died, they discovered a plastic bathtub with debris at the bottom. According to a former Dayton detective, "To me, it looked like flesh," Doyle Burke remarked. Burke stated that burns on Talley's body, limbs, and parts of her face perplexed him, and that he had searched around the house, including the stove and oven, but had not examined the microwave. He had no idea a microwave could burn that badly, he claimed. Later on, prosecutors reported that the baby's DNA had been found inside the microwave in Arnold's apartment. He also said he told Arnold about what he had heard from witnesses and that she changed her version of events multiple times. He said he asked Arnold where her 4 children were, and she told him that she had locked 3 of them upstairs and that the baby was with her father. The case was beginning to take a strange turn. It was getting increasingly difficult to filter the truth from the lies. Judge Wiseman, who presided over the proceedings, denied Arnold's lawyer's request for a sentence that would allow for parole after 25 years in jail. Arnold was not there in court to hear her sentencing, but watched the proceedings through a video link from a side room. The defense team had claimed that there was proof that someone else was responsible for Paris Talley's death and that the cellmate had modified her narrative. Arnold's attorneys were now requesting a 3rd trial. On November 5th, 2010, the 2nd District Court of Appeals overturned Arnold's conviction, citing prosecutorial misconduct and the court's error in not allowing crucial witnesses to testify in Arnold's defense. On that day, defense attorney John Paul Rion said that he was overjoyed with the decision and that he knew from the first day that Arnold was innocent. "I was really happy," Arnold's mother, Gloria Scott, remarked during a press conference. "It was completely unbelievable. Once again, China had a chance to defend her so-called innocence." According to the prosecution, the defense counsel were well familiar with the witness, having represented her in an unrelated criminal matter, while the aggravated murder allegations against the defendant were pending. The state filed an application asking the Court of Appeals to review its judgment, citing evidence in the record demonstrating that the defense had more than adequate time to prepare for the examination of this witness and that the prisoner received a fair trial. It also did not help that Linda Williams recanted her testimony, and it was beginning to look like China might get off scot-free. So, with Montgomery County Common Pleas Judge Mary Wiseman presiding, China Arnold went on trial for the 3rd and presumably final time in May 2011. Defense counsel John Paul Rion contended that the evidence pointed just as much to Terrell Talley as it did to the child's mother, who he claimed was inebriated at the time. China Arnold had told authorities that Paris woke her up at around 2:30 a.m. and that she was alone with the exception of the children sleeping upstairs. The prosecution informed the jury that there was no evidence of a break-in. The trial extended for quite a while, but after all that time, China, the murderous mother Arnold, was finally found guilty of aggravated murder by the jury. The sentencing phase was postponed to allow for a mental health examination of the murderer. China Arnold was confirmed to have an average IQ and no severe mental disorder by the 2 psychologists. She did, however, according to Dr. Jeffrey Smalden, suffer a low-grade chronic depression disorder as well as an alcohol and drug usage. He stated that he discovered nothing that would have justified the killing of this child. According to defense counsel Kevin Lennon, death or life in prison would be harsh penalties, as death should be reserved for the worst criminals. He presented proof indicating Arnold was intoxicated at the time of the baby's death, as if inebriation could be able to justify a mother murdering her 28-day-old infant. Nothing in the world can explain such a gruesome crime, least of all a night out with a bottle of Bacardi. It is a mother's duty to protect her child, and on this count, China failed in every way possible. Assistant prosecutor Dan Brandt told the jury that the killer's actions were even more intentional than a homicide with a gun or knife, since she had to cram the infant into the microwave, close the door, press the buttons, and wait for 2 minutes to take baby Paris out. Let us not forget that China waited until the next day to take her daughter to the hospital, when the poor little girl was already long dead. One cannot imagine the extent of pain and torment that child endured before passing away. China Arnold was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of release on May 20th, 2011. She and her lawyers are anticipated to file an appeal. Without a doubt, China Arnold really had nothing else to do for the next few decades. In 2013, she refiled for another trial, but nothing came out of this effort. Hopefully, this killer stays locked away for a long, long time. We can be thankful to the judicial system for putting away cold-blooded murderers like these. Thanks for tuning in to Twisted Minds. That was the case of China Arnold, and why don't you go ahead and click on one of the 2 videos on your screen for another one of our videos.